Welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. So glad to be back and wishing you well and glad that you're here to stay curious with us today. Beside me is Larry Ostarly, our chairman of the board here at the American Space Museum. We are the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation. Larry, thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for
I
the
asked
invite.
Larry to come on and say a few words. As you all know, we suffered the tragic loss of our leader, Karan Conklin, just 10 days ago. And I want Larry to come on and just have a few comments to all of you
Well,
wonderful
yeah. Well, first of all, Mark, thanks. I appreciate you inviting me to come on. And like you're saying, we did lose Karen Conklin, our leader. She was the executive director of the museum for the last 5 years, but she really, truly was a member of this organization for 21 years, from the beginning of the Space Walk of Fame, which evolved into the museum. And, it's hard to imagine the place without her. She's been such a piece of the scenery and an icon in this arena. So we are having a little memorial. Her husband's having her funeral at the North Brevard Funeral Home on the 31st. And then we're going to have a little memorial here at the Space Museum on the 31st also. So we'd like to invite folks to come out and pay tribute to Karen and to the family. And in addition, the family asked that if you have any, they would like to memorialize Karen with contributions to the museum. So please feel free to donate to the museum and help us remember Karen. The museum would not exist without her. So thanks to everybody, and Mark, thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you, Larry. We've got so many intelligent viewers out there that follow the space program and our whole program here. And Karen was always previewed kind of my script and stuff before the show on most days on there. And it's just a big void that we have here.
So that's kind of scary. Who's going to preview it now?
Yeah, exactly. It is.
Does that mean you're going to run amok?
No, that means you're going to have to start watching them, Larry. Yeah, you're going to have to start watching me now
Okay.
and straighten me out there. But there's my daughter, Jessie, watching there. Thank you, honey, for watching. And Gary Gerald is our farmer in Georgia watching. Dave Stangy's up in Michigan. And so we're all grateful. I just, we're a small family here. It's a very small operation. It's a nonprofit. I'm so glad to have Larry as the chairman of the board, and he's put together a team of board members that's basically overseeing the museum until they make choices here in the future. But we want everyone to rest assured that we're going to continue status quo.
Oh, yeah, the museum, the museum's on sound footing. We're going to, you don't just replace losing your executive director without taking time to work your way through that. I mean, it's a very difficult loss to have, and the museum is focused on providing this services of stay curious in the museum for the future. Our goal is to truly make the museum a destination in Titusville for people to come and enjoy the history of our American space program. And please, if you're out there, when you're in Titusville or you're visiting the Space Coast, put us on your map and come see us. It's a wonderful place. I remember when I first walked into it, I was like in awe that they had done such a good job of documenting the history of the programs that I worked on. So it was really eye-opening, and I must admit, I didn't know it existed until I was invited to come. So I'm inviting you all to come have fun, come enjoy, and help us celebrate our history and help us remember Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Larry was a Lockheed Martin executive, I got to say, and well connected in the space industry during the shuttle era. And so thank you, Larry.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
all your leadership.
Yeah, I have
He's
a board
got
meeting to
That's
go to.
right. So I wanted to get him
Thank
in
you.
there and let y'all know we're doing well. Robert Law's watching in Dundee, Scotland. Larry having a cocktail at 9 o'clock at night. So Larry will be off there soon. So thank you very much, sir. And we welcome back in the saddle for me. I'm happy to be back today. Had a great vacation. Hello, my daughter and two young grandchildren. Hi, Jesse and my daughter, hi McKinley and Macy. So hope that they're having a good day today in Upper East Tennessee of Bristol. And thank you, Steve Jokums, for your sentiments there and your support of this institution. Everybody that supports, I put in Larry's ear and other board members what you're doing to support us here. So, Carlton Bailey, CB, good to see you, brother. And so let me rack up here what we were going to talk about today. I thought we'd get back to the basics of what got us here. We being Marty Winkel, my co-producer for over 1,100 episodes, Marty. And Marty was on vacation for 2 weeks. I took off for a week, so we're finally getting back. The team's back together. The band's back together, and glad that you're there, Marty. We got wanted to thank Chuck Jeffrey, our collections analyst. He's bid again auctions, has a new auction of art, mostly online. We will be talking about that here the next couple of weeks till the auction happens on there. But if you've got an appraisal, if you got space memorabilia, you can email it to Chuck at chuck@americanspacemuseum.org or give him a call. And he never charges for any appraisals. If you're local, he'll meet you at the museum to look at your stuff. So thank you, Chuck, for supporting our museum. Over the weekend, Marty, we said goodbye to these two gentlemen that, gosh, is incredible. They and Karen, all three of them were at the funeral home at the same time. Oh, he's getting that chair out of there. There you see Marty's torso. There. Bob Giffen, we loved you, and Murphy, just beyond words how much we love both these guys. They would sit around on Thursdays at the docent desk, and Karen called them the Liars Club there, as they were starting to tell tall tales about their work on the Cape Canaveral side for Murphy. He helped launch hundreds of Atlas rockets, and Bob Giffen famously hung off the side of the Saturn V rocket and did a repair. And those stories are on the YouTube channel now. We had Bob on Monday, and Friday we had Murphy on there. Shows that Murphy did 3 years ago. So go and check those out. You're going to learn a lot about those guys there. And there's our Karen, and the services will be a week from Saturday. They do have a live feed of this, so you anywhere in the world can watch as we just honor a great woman that just still hard for me to believe she's not down at the office at the end of the hall here. We wanted to thank Roger Crouch and his wife Ann there, and Winston Scott. Winston was given a Quilt of Valor by Ann on a show that we recorded and aired yesterday. Hope that you all enjoyed that. If not, go back and see those three shows that we aired while I was on vacation. And Marty, thank you for doing that. They looked good and worked out great. And Winston Scott, of course, our local astronaut that is head of the astronaut corps, so to speak, that come out the astronaut encounter. Every day at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex, you can hear an astronaut tell his story or her story and get an autograph or photograph with them. And Winston's over all that now, twice an astronaut, 3 spacewalks, and he loves to support our museum. So go check that out. Tomorrow, I got Mike Chinelli, Chachi, will be on, taking your questions. Now, I know you've got a lot of questions because he is the lessons learned director of the Apollo, Challenger, and Columbia Lessons Learned program. And he was a shuttle test director, and he was a landing recovery director. And Chachi just loves talking about space. And so we'll take your questions and kind of, I have a kind of an angle of where I was in Tennessee for, a few days. And I guarantee you, people in Tennessee have no clue about this spacecraft, Boeing Starliner. All they know is that it doesn't work, and are the astronauts stranded up there. And I heard this from a couple of my friends up there, because they don't, I said something like, We got 3 rocket launches when I go back next week, and you know, if some think we're still launching the space shuttle, but that's we're launching. They don't. I go. They go 3 launches. I go, yeah. They're Elon Musk is launching this satellite constellation, we call it, for communications. Yeah, I heard about that. You know, a lot of satellites are orbiting Earth, huh? And I go, yeah, like 6,000 of them now are up orbiting the Earth. Well, what good is that to us? A friend asked in Tennessee, and I said, well, the good is that we can get communications in some of these hollers now that you can't get a signal or from a cell tower and so forth. Oh, that's good. And then sometimes they'll ask me, are they spying on us? Do they have cameras on them? And to that, Marty, I go, I don't know. Okay. But so I got a cute story here. As we have, there is the Starliner, and you've been keeping up on it. Right now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaceships docked to the International Space Station. 3 of them are crewed. And the Progress and Cygnus are actually cargo ships. And Cygnus just docked there. You see where it's at. Look at how the Dragon is docked above the Starliner. So this photograph of the Starliner is taken outside the Dragon window. How ironic is that? So I have a friend up there for many, many years, Bootsy Waring. And Bootsy asked me, I'll show you a picture of Bootsy. There she is here at the American Space Museum. So this lovely lady asked me over lunch, why can't those astronauts come back who are stuck on the space station? So I explained to Bootsy there was a helium leak. They can come back. They'll probably come back in another space station, okay? I mean, another spaceship, but they're going to be all right. In fact, they're enjoying their time up there. And Bootsy looked at me and she said, you mean they launched a spaceship with those people on it and it had a leak? Well, that's just plain ignorant. That's exactly what she said. And I said, yes, it is, Bootsy. Yes, it is ignorant. So, little side note there, the people, Joe and Jane America, I call them, in the hitherlands of our country, they don't keep up with space as much as we do because it's right here in our backyard. And, you know, again, it depends on where you get your news. And young people today don't get a lot of news, I don't think. There's no newspaper laying around the house or Newsweek or Time Magazine that if you're bored, you might pick it up and read something in there. I miss newspapers. They had comics for the kids. They had the stock market. They had sports. They had social sections on it as well as all the news. And I think a newspaper just laying around, people are missing out on stuff. As I share my friend Bootsy's insight, that's like congressional testimony, Marty, which she did there. Like, that's just too common sense. You know, why would they launch them up there? So anyway, and we're going to talk some about that with Chachi next week or tomorrow, I mean, on Stay Curious. As I was shared with him, you know, you got this mammoth spaceship, the largest ever launched by a big factor, Starship out there in Texas, getting ready to go. Nobody's talking about it. So you'll enjoy a great conversation. Here's Chachi right there. I had him here. I had him up there, so that's fine. So, well, we wanted to get back to what got us here, Marty. When we started this program over 4 years ago, it was space history every day that I was talking about. And this is the launch you see of Gemini 5, launched on August 21st, 1965. 8 days or bust was the theme of it, as Mercury endurance champ Gordon Cooper and rookie Charles P. Conrad were launched 59, sorry, Bootsy, launched 59 years ago today. Imagine that. Of course, both have passed away. There's Gordo was the commander. He had spent a day and a half in space on Mercury, the longest mission. And there's Pete, who was the Apollo 12 commander and moonwalker, third man on the moon. very diminutive man, very talkative man. Quite all kinds of stories about Pete Conrad I've heard. Very few of them can I tell in public on Stay Curious. Some of you that read some of the things, the biographies know what I mean. But he just had fun. He was a practical joker and always doing those gotchas on everybody. But uh, they had a patch 8 days or bust. This was going to be an 8-day flight. And when it succeeded, the U.S. finally took the manned spaceflight endurance record from Russia while demonstrating that the crew could survive in zero gravity for a length of time required to go to a lunar mission. Now you think, prove that they could survive for 8 days. Yeah, 3 days there, 3 days back, maybe a day on the moon. So you need to have 8 days. We did not know at this time, 59 years ago in 1965, if the heart would just stop beating because of weightlessness. Maybe the lungs would work for a few days, but then something happened that they would collapse. Could you swallow food? Could you digest the food? Could you urinate, and so forth? These are human conditions that you have to do to survive. So this was a huge uh, jump from the 3 day. No, I think Gemini 4 was just a little over a day with Ed White's spacewalk. I think it was up there 3 days, but Steve Jokums or Neil 1040 will correct me on that. But they used a Conestoga wagon as an example. That this Conestoga wagon, for those of you who don't know, that's what it is on the patch. That basically took America from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. And you watch any Western, you'll see this wagon. And it was like, St. Louis or bust type of thing, or San Francisco or bust. And so NASA did not like that 8 days or bust thing because they thought, well, if they only came back after 4 days, it's going to look like the mission failed. All right. And by the way, they went to the numeric numbers instead of the Roman numerals on Gemini 5 on this mission. So actually, this 8 days or bust is covered up with a piece of cloth on their spacesuit. I didn't have time to pull a picture up of that, but there they are in the Gemini Gullwing open spacecraft there. And there's I did have time to do that. That's actually what they did. They sewed over the 8 days or bust, Marty, on there. So, William Whiting, thank you. It's great to be back. Thank you, Steve Jokums. It was 4 days, 1 hour, 56 minutes, and Steve says 12 seconds, and I'd take that to the bank with my friend there. So 4-day trip, so doubling that and going longer than any Russian had was a really big deal in the moon race with the Soviet Union in 1965. Bennett Scarborough, thank you for watching today, Bennett. Always fun to tune in, he says. Tommy Usiak, welcome me back. Thank you. It's good to be back here. I really feel like I belong in this museum after being away from it. And Doug Forrest says hello all. And you all know that I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for Karan Conklin. So I'll always be eternally grateful to that lady. And people like Larry Ostarly that we just had on, our board chairman, who deeply believes in what we're doing here on Stay Curious. Well, let's talk a little bit about this mission. Here's the guys after the 8 days. They did not shave, okay? So there's an 8-day growth of beard on, that's Pete on the left and Gordo on the right. And see his patch? There you see, right there, where it's covered up there, Marty. This is on the ship after they landed, okay? So this was the first NASA mission to have an insignia patch. Okay, it was referred to as the Cooper patch. The managers objected to the 8 days or bust, meaning there was too much emphasis on the length and not the experiments. So they sewed it over there. So they evaluated the performance of rendezvous guidance, and they didn't dock, but they used a rendezvous evaluation pod. They actually ejected something out of the spaceship. I think it was stowed in the back that they could use as a target. but they demonstrated all phases of guidance and control systems operation. However, a lot of the mission was spent in drift, okay, um, and Pete Conrad said it was that it was incredibly boring. They drifted a lot to conserve fuel, and it was, quote, just about the hardest thing I've ever done, unquote, said the hyperactive Pete Conrad. All right. They let go some freeze dried shrimp that were filled up the camp cabin with pink sub satellites. That was a fun thing to do, I guess, to get away from the boredom. Uh, But Cooper went on to have a second Gemini 11 flight with Navy friend Dick Gordon, September 66, his third flight. I'm sorry, Conrad. Yeah, Conrad went on to have a second flight. I thought Cooper never flew again. Okay. He retired after being a backup of Apollo 12, Apollo 10. He could have been on Apollo 13 given the usual rotation of 3 missions. You were backup, then you were going to be on the prime, 3 missions from them. You read about Gordon Cooper, a great person. He had some aloofness to him. He wasn't, it's hard to say what was in his head. He actually fell asleep on the launch pad, I think, during his Mercury launch just to catch some winks. But they didn't like how he trained. He wasn't, he apparently was so smart and everything came easy to him that he didn't have that gumption of right stuff they wanted for him to command a moon flight. And I think it's a tragedy. Remember, Marty, we met his daughter. He had 2 sets of children, one from his Apollo era and Mercury era, and then he had another set after he retired. We met one of the girls from the other set, and she's never gotten back to us. Though I've made some inquiries to her, but she said she'd come on and talk about her dad. So that's Gemini 5. Okay. It was very successful. They worked through some problems, but this is on Lake Champlain where they landed there. So great mission. Pardon me?
They landed great.
They landed, the aircraft carrier Lake Champlain picked them up
okay.
after landing in the Pacific Ocean on August 29th. So this is the beginning of a long 8 days. The newspapers were filled with the blow-by-blows of what was going on. A very exciting time in 1965 and 66 when every 2.5, 3 months a crew of 2 were launched. And this is Spaceview Park that celebrates the Gemini missions. On the ground there are pavers. Let me show this picture. These are pavers on the ground that have the mission names on them in sequence or order there. They're really cool to look at. And these little pylons are shaped like the 2 of the Roman numeral 2 symbol of the Greek gods, the Gemini twins. The pylons have on them a bronze handprint, or those astronauts that passed away before we got their handprints, a relief of them. And though as beautiful as it is, here is Gemini 5 paver, August 21st, 65 today. All right, does not have 8 days or bust in the Conestoga wagon. That's because NASA people were in charge of doing this, so they didn't want to. They wanted to follow the directive there. And there's Pete's bust. He died in 1999, tragically, in a motorcycle wreck that was very innocent, but he ruptured his spleen, and where he was at was in a very fancy hospital, and he died of that incredible deal. There's Gordon Cooper's handprints. Gordon Cooper's handprints are also at the Mercury Monument over there. There's see Gordon Cooper's name there, and they write their handprints in there. Well, there's the Mercury, and that's actually Bootsy during her visit here out there. My friend Bootsy. The bridge is the Brewer Bridge that goes over to Merritt Island Park, the national park over there, the beaches, and then of course be the north entrance to Kennedy Space Center on Route 3, going over that bridge. But this is the Mercury Monument. The bricks are people who were space workers that donated for that, and then you have the 7 Mercury astronauts around there. And there's Leroy Gordon Cooper Jr. I think all but one of these Mercury astronauts was a junior, and almost all of them were only child too. Kind of interesting there. He was born in Shawnee, Oklahoma. There it says, and there's his handprints there. That of course we use the same set of prints at the Gemini Gallery there. Well, we got a call the other day at our beautiful Gemini monument. There is the monument with the names in marble of people that worked on the Gemini program. That is the vehicle assembly building there, and a picture I took on a Chamber of Commerce day here. But we got a phone call that we've got a problem out there. Some of you have walked out there, I'm sure. And the salt air, though we're not that close to the ocean, we're within 10 miles of the ocean, but the salt air is deteriorating some of these to an extent that we're going to have to do something about it. So Larry, that was our board chairman, will be talking about that today at the Steve's action is Gemini Walk open again. It was closed for the bridge work. Yes, it is. Dave, you haven't seen this? 3 trips to the museum? Dave Stange says, wow, I'm sorry that you haven't. I'm with Steve Jokums. Well, escort you over there. Of course, you have your wife Julie and other things on your agenda there, but it is beautiful. But this is bad. They are addressing it. This is a very convoluted park, as we were responsible for getting the names there and the handprints out there. Then the county's responsible for the maintenance, and the city also has a role in it for security. So Marty, you have a comment.
Yeah, you can read it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Old Man Space is saying, happy birthday to George Abbey. Today, he would have been 92.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll happy birthday to Mr. Abbey, who passed away about 3 short months ago, and best friends with our friend Jay Honeycutt. I talked to Jay on the phone today, and he didn't mention that, but I'll text Jay that this should have been George's 92nd birthday. So George Abbey was an important figure at Johnson Space Center. He was over the manned space flight for years during the Apollo era. He also was at one time one of the interviewers with John Young and a couple others on the astronaut board. So he was how you got to be an astronaut or not. So thanks for those on there. And Marty, good to have Marty on our UCAC family microphone there. Well, there is our Apollo and shuttle monuments in the background, and these have the handprints on the side there of the Apollo era. The names on the pylons include Marty Winkel, working for Grumman in the Apollo area, and on the shuttle side, what you had on yours under there? USA, Marty, on your shuttle.
I listed under Rockwell, Lockheed Martin, USA.
Okay, all right. So that's what we love about our space workers. We honor them. This is, those of you, this is honors. This is why we call our space workers national treasures. I would love for Newsweek magazine, where I worked, and say, Mark, send us $100 and we'll put your name on the side of 444 Madison Avenue, where Newsweek was headquartered when I worked there 40-some years ago. But nope, space workers are like that. They were a brethren of sisters and brothers, and they never forget. And we would never want to forget what they did, something very unique, something that nobody else has done in this world today. Marty's given me a list of all you watching today, and we appreciate that. I'm going to go out today on a rather short show, which we need to have a little more crispier. Was this photograph that I posted on Facebook, Marty, taken today, okay, 46 years ago, 1978. on this front steps of the headquarter building, building number 1, of those of you that worked out there at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Look at our heroes here. And as you look at them, Marty, how many you think are still alive today? There's 21 gentlemen there. And I'll tell you who they are kind of left to right there in just a minute. But we've got 5 living today out of the 21. All right. So, and that 5 are Charlie Duke, Rusty Schweikert, Buzz Aldrin, Jim Lovell, and Dave Scott. And among their left to right, if I go over there left by where you see by the Apollo Command Module, that is Alan Shepard. Then you have Wally Schirra up above him. Ed Mitchell is a third in there. Rusty Schweikert is behind Dick Gordon.
Want me to point to him?
Yeah, go ahead and point to him as we're talking about him. I'm sure everybody wants to start there with Shepard. There's Alan Shepard, 46 years ago. And then you point to tops Wally, and then you got that's Ed Mitchell, great friend of the museum. Beside Ed, I didn't realize how short Dick Gordon was, and I didn't realize. I thought he's the same height as right beside him is Pete Conrad. Yep, right there. And you go to the back row, Marty. There's Rusty Schweikert, and behind him's Gene Cernan. Okay, and then that's. Gene Cernan, is that Bill Anders?
I don't know.
Bill Anders or Charlie Duke? That's Charlie Duke, and Bill Anders is in front of him. And then beside those two, you got, there's Buzz in the foreground. In the background, you got, I'm having a hard time seeing right there. Who's that?
Don't know.
That's that's Ron Evans, I think, or a little bolder there. Keep going. That's Ron Evans right there. Then you got Ron Evans isn't in this picture. Bill Anders, Charlie Duke, Buzz Aldrin. Okay, then you got Jim Lovell, Gordon Cooper.
Starting again.
Dave Scott. I see Dave back there. Neil Armstrong. Al Warden. I see Uncle Al's in the back. That's Jim. Jim Lovell. I mean Jim Irwin. There's Al. Al Warden. Jim Irwin. Stu Rosa is beside him. Tom Stafford. That's the general's got his uniform on there. That's Walt Cunningham in the foreground, Bill Pogues behind him, and then Mike Collins there. So, and 5 are alive, so that's 16 of these heroes of ours have passed away 46 years ago today. What a picture. There was some sort of meeting going on at the headquarters building. Several of the Apollo astronauts who are missing from this photo were active in the shuttle program and involved in other things that day. So that's why John Young's not in there, and maybe Jack Lausma and Gordon Fullerton, and don't see Fred O'Hays in there. So they're probably all working on the shuttle at that time there. So thought we'd have a little throwback with Gemini 5 and this picture today to help you stay curious. Thank you all. Like Steve Joachim said, so many heroes there in this one picture. Next year, I'll add up how much time they were all in space together. And just think about that. So thank you, Jesse, for watching. Hello, McKinley and Macy, my granddaughters. Man Space is Mitch, and I assume Mitch is still in Colorado. Check out his Facebook, NASA Man Space. I know that he's probably talking about Gemini 5 today. Gary Gerald, Dave Stengy, Carlton Bailey, Steve J., Robert Law, Doug Forrest, Mark Usiak, Bill Whiting, and Bennett Scarborough. We appreciate you all staying curious with us today and hope that you join us tomorrow when we've got Chachi on there, Mike Chinelli. Quite a guy, becoming a fast friend of our program. I love talking to Mike about anything. And we want your questions. What questions do you have about the Apollo, the remains of the Apollo command module, Apollo 1 command module, which is, I forget where that's at. We'll ask Mike. How about the remains of Challenger in a silo out there at Cape Canaveral? And of course, Columbia is in a building, is in the VAB, most of it, but they're going to move it to the Operations and Checkout, now called the Armstrong Museum. So any questions you have, if you've been to the beautiful tribute at the Atlantis building at Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex, Mike had a lot to do with that. It is just makes your goosebumps rise all over the place when you see the beautiful tribute to our fallen astronauts there at Kennedy Space Center. So so have a question for Mike. He really enjoys just going in any direction you all want to go. So, well, thank you all for coming aboard today on Stay Curious as I get my sea legs again and my banter back, sharing with you what we think is so important, American space history, that right here in Brevard County, it was its birthplace. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, Doug Forrest is saying Apollo 1 is at Langley.
Thank you, Doug Forrest, with 2 R's in that. Forrest, I knew we have got, Marty, and I shared that with you when we were on. I actually had Marty for the 3rd time on the other side of the camera last week before I left. And we have such an intelligent group of listeners that watch this program, and I am challenged all the time. Maybe we'll have a Jeopardy or something at Shuttlefest to show off Steve Jocum's chops, put him against Neil 1040 and Mitch Rothman, and that'd be a good Jeopardy program right there, guys. So.
Got to add Nick to it.
Can I have who?
Nick Thomas.
Yeah, Nick Thomas involved in that too. Nick will be on the show Monday. I'm lining up a guest about every day next week, okay? We're going to have Mitch on Monday. Nick Thomas on Monday. I've got, who have I got Tuesday up there? I got Bert Dick on Wednesday. And Tuesday I wrote down who, Marty?
Steve Agate.
Oh, yeah, Steve Agate's going to come back and do a show. And you loved Steve's last show was science fiction, how it influenced today and so forth. So we'll have some fun tomorrow with Chachi. So thank you all for joining today. I hope that you keep supporting the museum, keeping the Conklin family in your prayers as we're still readjusting to the shock of losing Karen. And it's hard for me to think she's not in the building here watching at her desk another edition that she helped springboard on our YouTube channel. So until tomorrow, when we're going to talk about the lessons learned of Apollo, Challenger, and Columbia accidents. I'm Marquette, happy to be back and saying I can't wait to see you in the museum to bridge the space between us.